Hey guys, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program Nitro. Well, we are finally here over at Moho. I actually had to relaunch the ship out here because I figured out I could launch the entire thing, the entire launch stage could get into space and I could refuel it that way, and then I used all the ion engine power to actually achieve orbit around Moho. So here it is. This is our ion-powered orbit at 100,000 meters, give or take, and it turned out pretty good. So I'm very happy with this so far. I did have to use a little bit of that fuel and a little bit of monopropellant there to achieve this orbit, but overall, I would call this a success. So now that we're here, we just need to find a different landing zone that's not in the one that we landed in before. And since this is the complete opposite side of the planet, I would say that this crater here looks good. And I don't really want to have to be fighting it the whole way, so I want to try something maneuver node about around here. No, it looks really extreme, but it should do the job if it's not too drastic. 520. That might be a bit much, actually. Let's see what our orbit gives us before I commit to anything. Can actually orbit around Moho fairly quickly. Unfortunately, while it's below 100,000, apparently I can't do this. So that was a little weird, but I guess I'll just grow that periapsis out a little bit so we can orbit a little faster. Alright. So I'm just going to use the power of the RCS to get this done, because there's no need to waste fuel. And of course that's the wrong one. Alright, so oriented prograde here. And right there looks good. Yeah, that's good enough for what we need. Alright, so let's just continue in orbit here. I think Moho actually rotates very slowly, so this might not be the best option. Might actually be better to return to the Space Center and do it that way. Just don't really want to have to do any sort of additional inclination change because I don't have the fuel for it. Alright, well, I'm going to go back to the Space Center then and see what I can do there. I'll bring you guys back in after I have a suitable landing zone. Alright, so this is about the best shot I'm going to get right here. I think I'm just going to try to land somewhere around in this crater here, but I want to do it using as little fuel as possible, so we'll just see what happens. Alright, so now that we have that ready to go, we need to get our lucky guy in the lander, and that is going to be Gus Kerman. So gotta orient everything here to normal so that way we can easily access the pod. I have no idea where he is right now on this thing. That's fine. Oh, there he is. Alright. Alright, there we go. So now good old Gus is in the pod, ready to go. Let's see here. Why is this not activating? There we go. Alright, so now all engines are online, which is exactly what we want, and we want to orient this thing to retrograde. Like so. And now we can eject. Switch to our pod, and there's good old Gus. So he's ready to go. And just slowly drift away from our craft. Do want to shut down all of these engines, because the smaller fuel tank here is more or less just to help us get off the surface. It's kind of like our emergency reserve tank, you could call it. Alright, so I think that's all of them. Yep, alright. Good. Now we'll just zip around the planet a little bit here. I'm not exactly sure how much power we're gonna have in space with this thing. Apparently we have quite a lot. It's promising. Alright, so that's really good actually. That didn't use a whole lot of our fuel, and we got a pretty good trajectory. So the remainder of our fuel is going to actually be used to help us land. So the whole purpose of this is I want to allocate about 50% of our fuel, 50 to 60% of the fuel can be used for landing. And that'll be okay because the rest of it we're going to use to get off the planet. And then this craft is actually light enough to where RCS tanks can move and create an orbit while it's at least high enough off the ground. So don't have to be too worried about that, but we don't want to use all the RCS, otherwise we are going to have a little bit of trouble docking with the main craft again, but again, I'm not too worried about that yet. Do want to be careful with our speed. If we start going too far over 600 meters per second, that's cause for concern. Because albeit this is a light craft, I really don't want to risk coming in too hot. But I do want to land in the middle of this crater. So I'm going to have to start burning here once we're right over it. I know I just passed 600. Now I'm going to do it right here. Can't go any further than this. Alright, so still doing good on fuel. Not too terribly worried. We have 26,000 meters off the surface, so that looks good. Alright, and then once we start getting in a little closer, then I'm gonna really wanna watch our fuel consumption. Turn our lights on. Alright, so 19,000 meters. Alright. Alright, so that is quite a bit of fuel that we just used there. Not too worried yet though. We still have our backup reserve tank, so we should be able to get off the surface just fine, provided we can land. So this thing can stop in a hurry. It has a lot of power for its mass. So 50 meters per second at this distance, I'm not really worried about. It's going off to one side. I don't want to come in it. It looks like this is kind of an... Ha, there we go. Perfect. So now all our engines are active, so we don't have to worry about that anymore, and let's get out of here. Hooray. So our second landing on Moho is actually successful, and we should be able to get off this thing. Just want to go to the top of the ridge here. I don't think the jetpack is of any use on Moho, if I remember correctly. And barely. I guess you can use it. But Moho definitely does have a lot stronger gravity than some of the other moons, so gotta be a little careful about how fast you go here. There we go. That's good enough, really. Let's plant another flag. Nowhere near the size of the Armageddon crater that we landed in, but good enough. So there we go. Our second flag on Moho was a complete success. I am going to be taking the Papa Dragon over to Duna and Ike, so we can get that done. It will be with the same crew. Oh no. Oh boy. Poor Gus. Yeah, gravity here is quite strong for the jetpack. I was a little worried he might just poof into his little cloud of smoke and die there. Alright, so there we go. We planted our next flag on Moho, and now we need to get off this stupid planet and get back to Kerbin. So we're going to have to head that way, which is this way on the nav ball. So hopefully we can get off here without dying. Let's see what happens. Alright, so that's all of our emergency rockets fuel, and that was pretty successful. We still have a lot of fuel in the main engines, which is just what we wanted. It got us up and off the ground. We are going to have to do an inclination change, but again, I can always use RCS because this craft is nice and light. So, let's see, 30,000. Should be able to redock. Not too worried. Alright, good. So we still got a lot of fuel. It's just what we want. 40,000 meters right here. There we go. So we got orbit, which is what I was really after. Because there's no atmosphere, we don't have to worry about this thing deorbiting. So we need to set that as our target. And I know I'm going to have to grow this out anyways, so I might as well get it out there. Let's see, what's that at? 103? 107. Alright, so that'll be good for that maneuver. Alright, so there we go. Now we can do our inclination burn over here. Looks like it's that way. 0.0, perfect. All right. Here we go. Now we just have to get our intercept down. And let's see, we are behind it, so we need to catch up to it for sure. Not sure why they're not connecting yet. It's a little odd. Let's see what it says here. 162, 164. That's weird. Hmm. We should actually catch up to it fairly fast. I'm not sure why the maneuver nodes don't go over themselves. Still have a perfect inclination too, which is interesting. Ah, there we go. So yeah, 13 kilometers, which means we'll be a little closer before that, which is what we want. We don't want to overtake it. And because this craft is so light, I'm not worried about the docking process at all. This should be a pretty fast dock. Looks like we're getting there. Went a little far here, but I should just be able to slow down and then reach it. I do apologize for this being on the dark side of the planet, but I can't control physics, so... Whoa. So we're just gonna have to deal with it. Alright, so let's see what this does. That's not too bad. Getting closer. Oh boy. That was the emergency burn right there. I would have hit it for sure. Alright. Oh boy, here we go again. Not good. Ah, perfect. Sort of. There we go. Alright. The time for panic is over. Whoa. Alright, good. So that's what I wanted. Kill all of our speed. And now I can orient this craft downward to anti-normal, which is right here. So I can then approach it with the other craft from directly underneath. So now that we switch over, we want to dock right there. And so I gotta get my bearings right here. So this craft needs to be pointed anti-normal, and it might help if we retract our ladder. I don't think the ladder will actually collide into anything. I don't think it has real collision mesh. I don't really have to dock with the station, but I kind of want to because I do have a little bit of fuel in here that I can potentially transfer out. Alright, so let's see. Need to get oriented properly, which means this. So roughly like that. And then now my controls are going to be all screwy. Whoa. Oh boy. Okay. Something is touching something else. It shouldn't be touching it. There's our problem. It's like the most rough dock ever. Get in there. There we go. So, not the most ideal docking situation, but we have docked. It doesn't matter. Alright, RCS is should be disabled. Ooh, we have a lot of RCS in these tanks still. So, I'm going to transfer all this fuel out. That was definitely the most brutal dock I've ever done. Alright, so not a whole lot of fuel left in these things, but every little bit of fuel helps for nuclear engines. Alright, so that's all the fuel. And now we need to get good old Gus out of here. And let's see, there's our crew hatch. See it. So he should be inside. I think he is, yeah. Alright, showing a lot of engines active here. I do believe all the fuel is empty. It's odd. As it shows so many engines. Huh. Well. Oh, because of fuel crossfeed. That's right. At least I'm pretty sure. Better double check. Yeah, it's fuel cross feed. Alright, so there we go. Our ship is undocked. We got everything here. Of course, we don't have any way of landing this craft on Kerbin, but it wasn't really designed to land back on Kerbin anyways. We have to send up a little rescue pod to get all of our guys out of the ship before we actually do our landing. But that's okay. So there we go. We have a successful landing on Moho with a redock on our Papa Dragon, which is exactly what we wanted. And now we can eject ourselves out into space. Alright, so there's our exit trajectory from Moho. And of course, we're just traveling around the sun, so that's just great. But we want to get to either Eve or Kerbin. And right now, Eve isn't looking like too bad of an option. Because if we do the traditional burn at periaps only, well, I don't know, 2,300 is a bit strong. Plus, we'd have to double that because we have to burn the opposite way. I don't know. I'm going to plan for an intersect with Eve first, I think, just to be safe, and then we'll make our way back to Kerbin. So I'm going to do that instead. But yeah, because our inclination's right here too, so that's nice. Goodbye, Moho. We will not return back to Moho for quite some time now. so there's our inclination burn. Wasn't too bad, and now we can start the process of our intercept burn. So let's see what happens here. And 2,800 meters per second. Not sure how doable that is, but we'll see. So I'll bring you guys back in after the burn is complete. Well, here we are. Our first burn is complete, and I actually turned off 2 of the engines and just used the 2 other ones after the fuel in the main tank ran out. So I just have a sliver of fuel left in these outer engines here. So 32 actually, so still a little bit left in there. We have a little bit of monopropellant left too, but that's fine for now. So the plan is now to just basically grow this out so we can try and achieve an intercept, which looks like is gonna happen right here somewhere. It's flashing on me, and that is not cool. There we go. 72 million. Can't give me anything better. Guess not. So a little less on this one, so we might actually have enough fuel to make this happen. If I can keep that down low enough, this might actually work. So let's see, 24 days. Let's go ahead and get to that point. And I'll bring you guys back in after I get my second burn done. Okay, so here we are after our second burn, and we do have a pretty good intercept and line on Eve, so we should be good. Once we get within range of that, I do actually have enough fuel left in these tanks here to get there. I did jettison the 2 ones that were spent, and now I'm using the ones I have left. So I'll bring you guys back in after we get to Eve. Well, here we go. We actually have a Eve encounter, and we're gonna slingshot at a very, very low orbit, and I should be able to bring us to a proper Eve orbit. So we'll just have to see what happens here. We're a day out. Our actual apoapsis right now is just a little over 119,000, I believe. So yeah, getting very close to Eve, uncomfortably close to Eve. I don't want to join Jeb on the surface on his prison island. Alright, so there we go, more or less a 500,000 meter orbit around Eve, and that is gonna have to be good enough. We have, a little bit of fuel left in here, but I don't really think we would have enough to make it all the way back to Kerbin, one way or another. RCS fuel is completely depleted, but all of the Kerbals are alive and in orbit around Eve, so that is more or less successful because all I will have to do now is launch an unmanned rescue mission with the exact same craft out to Eve and then back to Kerbin, and we can get all of our Kerbals home safely. So that is actually pretty good. So I'm going to stop it here, and the next mission will rescue all these guys here. So Macdon, Gus, and Gerzor, and we'll get them all back to Kerbin safely. Whenever I bring the craft out here to dock with this thing and transfer the guys out, I'll transfer all the fuel remaining out of these tanks because that's still enough for something. So, don't want fuel to go to waste. But that was a successful mission overall. We got all the way out to Moho, we landed, took off, redocked, and now we're back out here. Eve is a nice place to orbit, not a nice place to land. So, I'm happy with how this whole thing turned out. Now we don't have to launch a massive rescue mission back to Moho with a huge station. So that is our test flight of the new and improved Papa Dragon, and I'd say it worked out pretty good. I'm happy with the results, and now I just have to get these guys back home. Good old Jib is still stuck on his little island in that massive crater, but that's okay because I think I can get him off there. I mean, I have a craft that I believe is capable of doing it because it lights on fire. It goes so fast inside of Kerbin's atmosphere, and it gets like 1,000 meters a second off the ground and can go all the way into orbit and pretty much shoot straight towards the sun. So if it can do that, it should be able to get off the surface of Eve. I just have to figure out how to get it there with all the fuel and land it. And then I have to figure out how to get Jib up and onto it because he has to climb like multiple towers on ladders. So we'll see how that turns out. But again, until I'm sure I can pull that off, I'm just going to launch a mission out to Duna and Ike. So next two missions will be rescue and then it's off to Duna and Ike, and we will find the magic boulder, or as I like to call it, a piece of Krypton, because that's what it looks like to me. It looks like a giant chunk of kryptonite that orbits around Ike. So little Easter egg, if you don't already know about it, we're gonna see it and plant a flag on it if we can without dying. So we'll see what happens. But see you guys later.